crazy mother.
Welcome to an MT Genius podcast. I'm Jim Barnes, joined by Jeff,
Hello.
owner and operator of Oregon Coast Games, and Judah,
Hey there.
plumber extraordinaire.
We don't have to get into careers here.
Okay. We wanted to get this podcast out before the pre-release of Amonkhet, which has been a lot harder than you might think. This is recording number 18,000.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Okay. So the point of this podcast is to just go over some of Amonkhet, what we think, some of the cards that stand out to us, and maybe some of the impacts it might have on Modern. So without much further ado, how about we get into these gods? Way to vamp there.
Yeah, I know, right?
Thanks, guys.
No, I was trying to think about the black god, and it says can't attack or block unless a creature died under your control this turn. So basically, you have to have a creature die like every turn if you want him to do anything, which is kind of lame. I mean, we kind of talked about this before. But
Right. And our first recording that I didn't record.
Yeah, but like attack or block. So you have to kill a creature on your turn if you want to attack, or you have to
Which
kill a
is really
creature
rough.
on their turn if you
Yeah.
want to block. And it just seems really hard to manage that. Being a 3-drop is nice, though.
Yeah, I mean, his stats are nuts, right? If he was just a creature, the 3-drop for 4/6 menace, indestructible. He also has an activated ability of 1 colorless, 1 black, or swamp, and sacrifice another creature, scry 1, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life, which is okay. But again, like you're saying, I mean, this is aristocrats, right? Does
Yeah.
this fit into anything else?
I kind of thought it might have. Everybody I've talked to so far has been like, the Black God kind of sucks. And when I first saw it, I was like, that's really cool. That might just be because I kind of built a white-black sack deck around Marionette Master. It seems like there are some pretty good sack outlets, but I don't know.
Right. What was the one?
Hidden Stockpile.
Hidden Stockpile plays really well with this. A couple of the Yehenis, the Yeheni from Aether Revolt plays pretty well with this. There was the, what was his
The
name?
original Aetherborn.
Yeah, it was a black, the 3/1 that you sacrifice a creature and it gains indestructible and put a 1/1
Yeah,
counter on it.
that costs 1 to sack. But the
Sure.
Yeheni is just a free sack outlet.
Sure.
Right.
Plus, with a lot, unfortunately,
Well, the sack
though-
outlet, I think we've got those. This guy comes with a built-in sack outlet. It's just, I mean, other than hidden, what was
It's
it?
keeping
Hidden
the creature.
Stockpile?
It's keeping the creatures
that
up
creature
to be able
count
to
up.
use that ability. Hidden Stockpile is
The best,
probably the
probably.
best synergy with this. One, because now you have this god that does basically the same thing as the Hidden Stockpile, but it keeps revamping. So Hidden Stockpile is what you tap 1, sacrifice a creature,
I don't even think you have to tap, do you? Do you have to pay 1 into it?
and you scry
No,
1.
you have to
Okay.
pay 1 to sack a creature.
Yeah,
with.
and this one you get the same effect, but you tap 2, sacrifice that creature, and your opponent loses a life. You gain a life, so you get 1 extra mana, and you get like a little bit of an extra ability.
Sure.
So
Plus, you get your creature back at the end of the turn.
With Hidden Stockpile. Well, and if you ran this, and what's the new white one that just came out? If you would place a token under your control, you get another
It's that
token.
enchantment.
That's a 4-drop enchantment.
yeah.
So, I mean,
It's
with the right deck,
white
right?
parallel lives.
Yeah. If you had the right deck, you could actually use this to generate creatures for you. But it is going to be a tough.
Yeah.
I mean, in the right deck, I think it's really, really powerful. But you're building around this god. You're not just throwing, 2 or 3 up in your deck.
Yeah, I mean the only one, and like I've said it before, is this guy is probably going to go into my commander deck.
Yeah.
Right.
He's going into Clan Neltoth because Plunder the Graves, all about killing your own creatures. Get to scry.
Yeah.
Get a 3-drop.
Yeah, that's
4/6
definitely
god,
good.
So it's
Originally,
pretty good.
when I first saw Bantu, I was a little bit more excited because I thought of the revolt aspect. That we're really into sacking, and in playing standard and limited, I've seen people more so sack their creatures than any other permanent, because we don't have cracklands right now in standard. And so, but usually how people get revolt triggers is half the time is just by swinging with their creature and then playing their revolt trigger creatures or spells post combat.
No, there are several artifacts that tap to.
Yeah,
there's
so
a lot of
There's,
specials.
it might
bounce
not
effects
be
as
Yeah,
well.
there's-
great.
I think in the right deck, it's going to be great, but it's not a black god you just throw in black decks because it's amazing. You got to build for it. Next on the list is Kefnet the Mindful for 2 colorless, 1 blue. It's a 5/5 body with flying indestructible, and the way you turn it on is it cannot attack or block unless you have 7 or more cards in hand. For 3 colorless and a blue, you can draw a card, and then you may return a land you control to its owner's hand.
So the thing about this god is actually, and we've just talked about it before, basically the fact that you have to have 7 or more cards in hand to turn this god on makes it not so useful in the early game.
Sure.
I feel like because you're not going to have 7 cards that often.
Here's something that I haven't really thought about before, but you can do that at instant speed, right? So you can draw a card. So you can do the 5 card to 7 card swing, and if you have something like what's the new not Glittering Wish, Sphinx's Revelation is the 2 blue X draw X cards
Oh yeah,
at instant speed. So this could be used as just a deterrent. Like nobody's going to attack in if you've got 4 blue mana up.
pull from tomorrow.
Pull from tomorrow. So I mean, one thing is that if you play this turn 3, and on turn 4, if you leave the mana up and you've got 5 cards in hand, it's really going to stop people from attacking because you could draw the card, pull a land, and you'll kill Heart of Kirin, you'll stop Gideon, this gets in the way of a lot of stuff. So it is really difficult to keep turned on, I think. Like you said, having the 7 cards in hand, you're just not going to be playing cards, but to keep it where you can turn it on in a pinch might be a little more doable, and it might be a deterrent to your opponent.
Here's another interesting aspect about this that I thought of a little while ago is even if, and we're talking early game activating its ability, but even if a little later game you're still trying to maintain that 7 mana hand, you can still use a combat trick, because I would imagine this would be played in a little bit more of a control deck. You can still get that combat. You can block with it. It's already blocking, and then do whatever instant speed spell you want to do on whatever attacking creatures are attacking. After you've blocked, you lose your 7 mana hand, or your 7 card hand, but you've already blocked, and it will kill whatever it's blocking, most likely.
Sure.
Another interesting thing to bring up is actually the whole conversation we were having before with revolt triggers. The fact that it returns a land to your hand
Sure.
actually does trigger revolt.
Totally didn't think of
Probably not the best way to trigger your revolt,
Right.
but it does give you the option.
Doesn't necessarily make it
So-
super good
But one of
in
the
modern, but
interesting-
yeah, it's
One of
definitely
the
a...
interesting aspects of this is one of the few, if not first, revolt triggers that gives you a revolt trigger while still maintaining the value of not having a permanent leave the battlefield.
A permanent leaves the battlefield.
I know, but it's in your hand. You can play it again. And
Okay.
sure, it's a land, and that's
If
like
you
not
can make
having it.
revolt trigger without a permanent leaving the battlefield, that would be impressive.
I know, but a lot of them...
I know what you're saying. They go to the
Yeah,
graveyard.
without
not
going to the
get-
graveyard.
It's
yeah.
graveyard
Sure.
or exile or something like that. You
Sure.
don't think about returning it to your hand, you know?
So,
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I like that. I really like the flavor of the card. I love the art. I think it's a cool creature, and the mana cost is right where you want it to be. But it's just whether or not somebody can actually make it work. And if they do, I mean, it's going to be a crazy good card, right? Like maybe this is the one they end up banning in 3 months.
I see this in like a Baral's
Yeah, exactly.
deck,
Absolutely.
right?
Sure.
Every time you counter, you get to draw
Turn
cards.
2,
You
drop
get
a
to just
Baral,
keep your
turn
hand
3.
up and
Yeah,
just control.
absolutely.
As one last little thing, in Commander, everybody knows that there's always that one person at the table who's got 20 cards in their hand.
Let's just agree that all the gods, maybe besides from Hazaret, are going to be
They're going to
amazing
be great in Commander.
Commander.
Yeah. Hazaret's probably the only one that I would say is not so good in
Maybe.
Commander.
It might be
but
depending on the Commander deck.
I would love to have Hazaret in a standard deck.
So let's move on to the aforementioned Hazaret the Fervent. He's actually one of the more expensive, which is not what you'd expect out of red, but 3 colorless and a red. Indestructible haste, 5/4. Haste, right, that's probably why he's a little
Yeah.
more expensive. He cannot block or attack, or she, or whatever it is, cannot block or attack unless you have 1 or fewer cards in hand. The cool kids are calling this heck bent. Also, for 2 and a colorless, discard a card. Hazoret deals 2 damage to each opponent. I really like this god. When I first saw it, I was a little bit on it, but the more I think about it, I really, really like this god.
We've definitely talked about how this god, and I have a standard deck that is all about having as little cards in your hand. In fact, it runs Lupine Prototype. It's all about dumping your hand, discarding cards, using madness triggers, going full aggro. And the only problem I have with this god is, like you mentioned, that it's a 4 mana cost creature.
Sure.
However,
But that's slightly negated by the haste. I mean, you're
Well,
swinging.
not only is it haste, but he's not really doing you any good until you get rid of your cards anyway. So if you
Yeah.
play him on turn 2, he's literally doing nothing other than his ability, but you don't want to be playing that on turn 3. That's not your turn 3 move, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I agree. 4 mana is there, but as a finish, as a top out to your curve,
Yeah.
it's just epic. And turning this guy on, this guy or gal is going to be the fun, like, you will have, you'll have 4 cards in your hand. They'll think he's offline, and there's so many ways in Magic to just ditch your hand. Whether it's a creature like
you could
Noose
run,
Constrictor,
Noose
or
Constrictor, Bomat even, you could
or
just sack into Bomat.
Pyroclasm.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's just a lot of ways to turn this into a creature. It's going to be something that makes your opponent sit there and wonder the whole game whether or not you're about to go crazy with it. And I mean, its ability is super powerful to just sit there and ding your opponent every turn. I mean, it turns it 3 mana shock. It doesn't sound great unless every turn, you draw a 3 mana shock from turn 4 on.
Right.
I mean, you're going to be dealing damage. You're going to be sitting there, even if boards stall, or you just block, you can just sit there and kill your opponent from the other side of the table. And I think it's a good card. I'm really curious to build around this.
Yeah, especially if you're both sitting there just drawing land, waiting for something. This is the perfect card to just sit on the battlefield. Hard to remove.
Yeah.
Really hard to remove. And sure, if they can provide the blockers for it, doesn't matter. Because, if they got 6 life left, there was another card, as far as on the subject of discard, it was an Escalate from Eldritch.
The black one?
Yeah, what was that called?
Some brutality?
I believe it's Collective Brutality.
Collective brutality, sure.
I always thought that was an interesting one because that allows you to ditch your hand pretty quick too, and gives a little bit more. I'm not gonna say gives a little bit more.
Yeah.
It gives the card.
And there are so many.
a little
Here's the
more
other thing:
value.
is like there are so many cards in Amonkhet. I don't know about Hour of Devastation, but Amonkhet has so many cards that trigger off of discarding or cycling a card that this 3 mana discard a card is upside for a lot of synergies. Drakehaven, we mentioned in our last recording that died. Drakehaven, this turns into a 4 mana, deal 2 damage to a target opponent and create a 2/2 flying Drake.
Which is actually pretty good value.
Oh yeah, that's great. I love it. So I think Hazoret is. Anytime I predict something, the opposite happens. So Hazoret's never going to see standard play. But I think Hazoret is. We're going to see him in standard.
I think
her in
probably
standard.
my combo I would use most often is tap 3, discard, Fiery Temper,
Oh,
deal
yeah.
3 damage,
Just-
deal another 2 damage.
Yeah, and we do have Madness. Madness is in standard right now.
Yes.
So really fun, really interesting. The tough thing is just going to be narrowing down the cards you want to play in this deck. Next we have Ronas, the Indomitable. 2 colors, 1 forest. Death Touch, indestructible. Ronas, the Indomitable, can't attack or block unless you control another creature with power 4 or greater. For 2 and a green, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains trample until end of turn.
Just green.
It's
That's
just
all
green.
I think. This is a green god. It makes so much sense. And something that I really like about the gods in this set is that most of them, with the exception of the red and the white, are 3-drop. Are 3-drop creatures. So they're actually not super hard to get out. And but what makes this guy so great is that he's so easy to get out, and to have a creature with power 4 or greater is actually not that hard right now.
Especially with his ability, right?
Yeah.
So like his ability, all of their abilities turn them on, but this ability turns it on and gives your other creatures the the power, right? So it's just
Right.
so green. It's a you play a Servant of the Conduit turn 1, and then turn 2 you play this, and on turn 3 you buff your Servant and go for attacks for 9 damage. It's green and it's great. I think it's a really cool card.
Yeah.
Whether or not it takes. I mean, it's a legendary creature, so you're going to play 4 of, really, in like an aggro. You don't want to get more than 1.
Right.
So I don't know if it plays like a main role in green aggro, but it's super cool. It's just straightforward, in your face, awesome.
One aspect of this that's separate from the other gods is what turns him on, so to speak.
I love how we're just turning all the gods on.
These gods,
We got to get their gears grinding.
they're really flaccid when they enter the battlefield. They're just like, I don't know, this doesn't do it for me.
All the other ones, it's relatively hard to, once you activate them, to disrupt that. Like with the black god, once you kill a creature, he's good to go. And the blue one, unless they've got discard in their hand, once you got 7 cards, he's good to go. Red one, once you're down to the amount. But the green one, even though if you have combat tricks, if you've got 1 creature or like 2 creatures on the battlefield, if you go to buff it to turn your god on, they can just kill your creature. And it's a little bit more disruptive because you can't do it so much as a combat trick, because you have to do this all before declared attackers, and then you declare attack, And so, and sure, if you've got a buff spell plus his ability or something like that, you might be able to get it in, but you might be wasting 2 spells and an ability on a creature where they only have to waste 1 kill spell that ultimately fizzles. So it's a little bit more disruptive than the other gods, whereas theirs, it's just like, it's tougher to turn their abilities on, but to turn them onto the battlefield, but this one, it seems like his is a little bit more hard to disrupt, but a little bit easier to disrupt than the other gods. A little bit more accessible to the other player.
I think what makes it a little bit better is once you get a creature with power 4 or greater, if it's already like that, you mentioned the one that's, what is it, like a 4/4, and you put 3 -1/-1 counters
I
or
can't remember
something.
the name,
Yeah.
but it's a 2-drop 4/4.
Yeah, and so, I mean, once you have that creature on the battlefield, they have to remove that creature from the battlefield. Things like the Black God, you have to activate that every turn to
Right.
make it happen.
Yeah,
Once you get a
that's true.
creature on the battlefield, he's activated for as long as you have that creature.
And to get them to, I mean, you're forcing them to kill other creatures to get rid of it, to just slow this guy down.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
There
it
are
is a good
benefits.
point
You do
where
have a
just
good point.
before combat they can stop this guy. But it's pretty, and green. It's green, right? So
You're gonna
once you
have
can play this
creatures.
guy, you just keep dropping big creatures. They kill one, you drop another.
You definitely want to make sure, though, you're right. You want to be able to turn your god on and get it in.
This
Yes.
side will be a lot better to draft.
Well,
in
Hazard's the only one with
limited.
haste.
Much easier to play in limited than the other gods.
Yeah,
Maybe,
definitely.
except for the red one, but much. I'd hate. in
Or the white
limited.
one, or the blue one, or the
Yeah.
black one.
The blue one would
seriously,
be really
the
hard
blue
to
one-
play in
yeah.
It'd be
limited.
tough to play in limited. but
I
like-
would draft it though.
Oh,
Yeah, but
definitely.
just
Always
like, I would
draft
hate
it.
to see.
Always draft a god in order to turn it on. Okay.
What's next? Oketra the True.
The true.
The true what?
The true
She's just
legendary
true.
creature god.
She's got to be a she, right? Oketra
Yes.
is definitely a girl's name.
I hope so. Double strike indestructible, 3/6, so really a 6/6. Oketra the true can't attack or block unless you control at least 3 other creatures.
Servos.
I'm
just saying.
Her activated ability is 3 and a white to create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance.
It's
Shouldn't it
such
be a
an
cat token?
It should be a cat token.
Isn't she like the cat god? I mean, she's got like cat ears and a gold cat face, and Oketra kind of sounds like cat. I'm just saying, flavor fail.
Maybe.
know,
I think maybe because of
Maybe cats don't have vigilance.
there's cat buffs right now. Maybe
cats
they were just
totally-
trying to avoid
There's
that.
a cat token that would have vigilance. I'm pretty sure.
Well, you go bring it for next week's podcast. I like this god. I mean, it's something. I think it's probably one of the like sleeper gods, or it's not super exciting, at least to me. But I think it's a really good god.
Well, and this is classic white, right? So
Right.
we have the classic green god.
White weenie.
You know, And then we have like the classic white weenie god. You know, you just have all the little white
It's a little
creatures.
expensive for white weenie, but other than that, no.
But it's a definitely a finisher. The
Sure.
ability itself, I don't see too much use coming out of that unless you're just not drawing.
I think
any action,
end
right?
game, it's going to keep you fueled a little bit.
Yeah,
Blockers.
it keeps you building out wide, so it's something to.
And, I mean, it
dunk
fits
in
into a
into.
token build, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of token love coming in this set with, if one or more tokens would be created, you create twice that many.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of the stupid card, but it's the white-blue creature coming out that gives tokens, flying, and vigilance. These already have vigilance, but in a token build, this is a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that we were going to see a lot of people go for that kind of token build just because there are so many token-friendly cards right now.
And the double
Do I
strike.
think it's going to be a very successful build? You're definitely going to need a little bit more than just these small things. Like Oketra's going to be a great finisher.
Did you just call a god small?
No,
That's not
But,
going to turn it on.
that's not going to turn it
Tokens
on
are
at all.
Oh,
The tokens are small, you know.
Sure.
Building, I think the best way to go about it would probably be just white-red. Just because white-red humans, white-red dwarves, they're small, they're cheap, they interact with vehicles. There's a lot of ways to make that work. Right now, obviously, Mardu vehicles is really big. And I think that...
and this makes a great god for vehicle. A crew 3 crews most vehicles out
Yeah,
there.
and I
that are
think that
ridiculous.
she actually fits really well in that, like you were
Yeah,
saying.
sure.
She can definitely crew most vehicles. So I think definitely good and limited.
The question is it better than a Gideon, right? The Gideon voices end a card, because that same mana cost is this. Which do you play?
Yeah, so when you ask that question, I mean...
It's not very great, right?
Yeah, you definitely... Well, the
mean,
cool
the right
thing
build.
is if you have all the creatures, she's always on. She has
I
double
guess technically
strike,
you can play both.
and
but-
she's indestructible all the time. There's really... You have to work really hard to get rid of a god. A Gideon, you just have to, attack,
Yeah.
right?
So that's the god side. Wow, we spent a little more time on that, but I think we covered it well.
Yeah, definitely.
Amazingly well. So the next section I was thinking about going over was some cards that I think could have impact on Modern. And I just kind of grabbed these before the show. I'm sure there's more in this set and other ones. And the first one on this list, I really want to have impact on Modern. And if it does, I'll probably say, oh crap, I wish this hadn't had an impact on Modern. I'm not sure it will, but it's a really interesting card. It's one of the more interesting cards that I think they printed. So, As Foretold is 2 colorless and a blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on As Foretold. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast with converted mana cost 0 or X or less, where X is the number of counters on As Foretold. It's a lot of words, but basically it's the what are they?
It's the spell Ether Vial.
Ether Vial. That's it.
Yeah, but with just spells. Yeah.
Well,
it's
all
amazing.
spells.
No, I mean it's
Yeah.
anything
Creatures.
on
No,
their
that's what I'm
turn.
saying. Just
yeah.
any spells. And your turn, their turn, you can
That's
do
what
it.
makes it crazy, right?
I
Once
think-
each turn.
Yeah, I think this is going to be great.
So the important part about that is you can cast spells on your opponent's turn and your turn. You get 1 free spell
Yeah.
per turn.
And I seriously think that this will fit really well in most control decks. And definitely, as I mentioned before, the suspend decks, I think, are going to get a huge
Super interesting.
benefit from this card. 0 converted mana cost. So you have Ancestral Visions, you have Wheel of Fortune, or whatever it is.
yeah, you have
Wheel of Fate, but
Restore Balance, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
Restore
have
Balance. All
Living
these-
End.
yeah, Living
I
End.
mean, Living End
you
has
know.
its own deck and it's getting some love in this set, but yeah, it's really interesting.
You have all these 0 drops for sure that you can use this card with that would normally have to be suspended. And then
Sure.
it just gets better and better the longer it sits on the field. So you can
Yeah,
and
I-
you can have a free counter spell, in within like 2 turns.
The only problem with this after it's on the battlefield is you're usually going to run out of cards. So you just have
true.
to have lots of card draw. But Serum Visions, this plays so well with Serum Visions.
Serum Visions, I mean the fact that you can run Ancestral Visions and just draw 3 cards for free is amazing on the
Oh, yeah.
turn that you want to. I mean,
Ancestral Visions. Serum Visions got stuck in my head. That's what I meant. Ancestral for dream thoughts. Okay. Interested to see where it goes. I don't have a deck for it yet, but like you said, it's just I think there's definitely potential.
yeah, I definitely think that that's a card to look out for, and to just try play it and test around with some different builds.
Yep. Next card on the list is Shadow of the Grave. It's colorless and a swamp. Return to your hand all cards from your graveyard that you cycled or discarded this turn. So as foretold, it's a little more obvious the things it can break, and I'm sure there's things that we don't know yet that it can still break, but Shadow of the Grave, to me, the reason I put it on this list is just, it seems powerful in ways that we don't quite get yet, in the same way that like Living End and Cascade wound up being powerful.
Right.
I just see it as, I mean, just in standard, right? You've got Noose Constrictor, you've got the other creature that whenever you cycle or discard a card, it gets +1. So this with Noose Constrictor gives Noose Constrictor 5 power, you return it all, discard another 5 cards, you got a 10 power on turn 2. I mean,
Right, you could definitely swing for the fences
so
with this
it's
card.
crazy. It's really good. I don't know if it's going to wind up, it might just wind up being bulk rare, right? Like it might wind up doing nothing, but I really want this to be good.
I really think that the fact that there are so many things that require you to discard, and they give you such a good benefit for discarding these cards. Think about too, you can actually discard and madness something, and you technically discarded it, right? So you can
discard
get
it to
back.
exile though.
But it is a discard trigger.
But it is still a discard.
But it goes
trigger.
to exile. It doesn't go to your. I don't think it goes to your graveyard after you've cast it for madness.
But it does go to your graveyard when you cast it for madness.
Does it?
Well, I mean, Fiery Temper does.
Yeah, he's right.
If you would discard this, exile it instead. You can cast it.
Exile it, discard it into exile, is how it's worded.
Oh, okay, and then you can cast it. Okay, I was wrong. You're right.
Discarded that, so it brings back Fiery Temper.
And I
basically
mean,
all madness spell or
Yeah.
all madness instants and sorceries that would automatically go to graveyard after you cast them.
we could be wrong on this.
No, I think
we
you guys are right. You discard it into exile, and then you can play it.
We definitely need probably need some input just in case, but I think
We're not pros.
If you can do
Don't
that.
kill us.
That would be really powerful to be able to
just
use
super
those
powerful.
abilities.
I mean, yeah.
It just gives you the ability to cycle through your cards and then just get them back in like collective brutality, like you said.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can discard to escalate, and then you're just like, okay, I'm going to take those cards back now.
Sure.
And it just gives so many different triggers the ability to just almost be free. It's like almost like a
Your opponent's going to look at you like,
drop
what are
at
you
that point,
doing?
yeah.
You just discarded all but one card, and you play this, get it all back. I just love it. I love it. Like I said, probably wind up being a bulk rare because I like it, but I just think there's a lot of power there. Harsh Mentor. This one a lot of people see as the new Eidolon or an alternate Eidolon. It's a red card, 1 colorless, 1 mountain. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land on the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, Harsh Mentor deals 2 damage to that player.
crack lands.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's gonna
fetch
be doing
lands.
5 damage to you instead of 3.
Sure,
And-
elves. Anybody else thinking elves?
Yeah, elf decks are
Affinity.
pretty hurt. Affinity decks are pretty hurt. This card
really
is going to
powerful
definitely
card.
be seen a lot as, I think, at least a sideboard.
Absolutely.
sideboard.
That's where I see it. It's going to be.
Definitely sideboard
It's going to be. Yeah. There's going to be like 3 or 4 copies in the sideboard.
The fact that it just hits, artifacts, creatures, and lands, and this is going to be huge in burn.
Oh yeah. I mean, Simon's Spirit Guide. Get this down. Turn 1. Your opponent hasn't played anything, and they're not playing any basic lands.
Yeah,
Like
they're getting ready to go search for their land. They're automatically taking
Turn 1, 5
at least
damage.
3. And it's 5
Turn
damage at
2,
that point. Yeah.
10.
Yeah. It's
It's
just bad.
It just grows from there. So I mean, this card is definitely something to consider at least for the sideboard.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I think I would just run it main board. And burn deck.
depending. Yeah. In a burn deck, sure. It's just so good. I mean, somebody wants to fetch after you've played this, they're paying 5 land to get an untapped, shock land. That's stupid
Yeah. Yeah.
and awesome.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty
though.
straightforward. Great card. Excited to see it. I don't think it's bad. It doesn't seem super oppressive. It's what red would do. It's not,
Yeah.
not out of character. I just think it's a cool card. Next in line is another red card. It's basically what a lot of people are calling the new Monastery Swift Spear. 1 drop, 1 mountain. It's prowess. It's a 1/2. If a source you control would deal damage or non-combat damage to a creature an opponent controls, put that many -1/1 counters on that creature instead. So basically, it gives your instants and sorceries wither.
Yeah, I think that in itself is a really powerful ability. The benefit you get out of Monastery is obviously the haste.
Yeah.
But Soulscar Mage, I mean, if you play that turn 1,
I don't think this replaces Monastery in an aggro deck,
yeah,
but in a a mid-range burn deck or a burn / aggro deck. This is, I mean, it's powerful. That's really powerful. I mean, to make your damage persistent, you can shrink a Tarmogoyf. A lightning bolt on a 4/5 Tarmogoyf does nothing.
Right.
But with this out there, it's
it
that's
definitely
powerful.
it definitely changes the dynamic of things. Especially, I think this card actually might be more useful in Standard than Modern. I can see it in Modern played very well.
Especially with all the other synergies we have with -1 counters right now.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna love that in Standard. It's gonna be amazing in Standard.
The -1 counters are going to be such an interesting dynamic in the new Standard format, especially with. I think once the next after Amonkhet comes out, we're losing all the battling.
No, we
gate
still have
blocks,
our
right?
devastation.
Yeah, well, then after
When the set after that comes out,
Yeah,
I
we
heard
lose.
They're
we're gonna have Kaladesh through our
yeah.
Right.
So
No,
Innistrad.
we still have Innistrad. Or does Innistrad cycle
Innistrad
with?
cycles too, all of it, which
Wow.
is kind of a bummer because I really kind of liked what was right.
Goodbye, Metalwork Colossus. I mean, it's Kaladesh, but my deck uses a lot of battle.
but yeah, honestly, this is it's a good card, and if you can't kill it in one turn with like you said, like a lightning bolt or something, at least you can weaken it, and then you can just kill it next turn, or maybe it's neutered at that point, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, this basically just says your spells and sorceries deal persistent damage.
Yeah.
And that's powerful, especially on a one. I know it's removable, but this is a 1-drop.
Right.
If this was a 4 or 5 drop, I'd be like, yeah, it's great, but yeah, you're not going to play it. But on a 1-drop, I mean, this is solid.
And prowess, actually, I mean, just gives it an extra kick to basically push it over the top. I really think that this is a strong kit pick. It'll probably...
This might spawn interesting ideas for decks in Moderns. I mean, it's not going to be the only deck, but there's already Wither in Modern, so this could just... it's a cool card. I think it's solid. I think we'll see it, maybe sideboard strategies, but...
Definitely. It's going to be a good addition.
This next one is almost an honorable mention of these because I really don't see it coming up a lot in Modern. I just really like the card. I think it's probably more Commander. It's definitely more Commander. But it's also just a really sweet card. It's the Vizier of the Menagerie.
Yep.
I got it right. 4-drop, 3 colorless, 1 green. You may look at the top card of your library. You may cast the top card of your library if it's a creature card, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast creature spells. Just an awesome card. It's a 3/4 body. I see this. I really think this could be in a super fun Standard deck with Bestiary. What's the one? It's the 3-drop artifact. Bestiary.
Recall no.
Whenever you cast a creature spell, you can pay 1 to draw a card.
Scry 1 at the beginning of
Scry
your
one at the
upkeep.
beginning of your upkeep.
Lifecrafter's Bestiary.
Yes,
right?
Lifecrafter's
Okay.
Bestiary.
Yeah, that's very... Yeah, you could definitely use this.
So
I
you
think
can
this is a
cast the
very
card
good
off
Standard
the.
card.
So you can scry 1. So you scry a creature to the top. When you cast a creature, you draw 1. You can still look at the top card of your library. So it's not. I don't see it as a tier 1 deck, but it could be a super goofy, really fun deck. I mean, Cryptolith Right with Paradox Engine, and just drawing your deck and casting everything all at once. I just see it as a super fun card, and it's really cool when you think about it. It's essentially card draw as long as there's a creature on top of your library, right? So if you're running a creature-heavy deck, you cast a creature off your library. If you have open mana and another creature comes up, you cast that creature, and you do that, as long as there's a creature on top. So it is powerful.
Yeah, this is definitely green. I recently got beat by a deck that did the same ability. It was Garruk's Horde? Is that what it's called?
I can't even remember. It was
The
one of those starter
7/7
decks. That was super
trample. You get to look at the top card and you can cast a creature card off the top of your library. The ability to just keep casting and to basically have an extra card in your hand at all times is really powerful. The fact that this guy's only a 4-drop is pretty incredible. I mean, he's a 3/4.
And he's a really good body on the field.
He is basically like your mana fixer though for all creatures. You don't have to worry about colors anymore. He's a great splash into anything at this point.
And especially Commander, right? Like in Commander, this is a no-brainer for any deck that I think. I mean, if
it has green, you should definitely be running.
It's just a really cool card. The art's beautiful. It's just I don't know that this really makes it into Modern, right? But it made me happy, so we have to.
We have to talk about
it. Last card on the Modern list that I put together, I'm sure there's more cards that are going to make it, but I threw this together, is what a lot of people are calling the Black Delver of Secrets. It's Bone Picker. It's a 3/2 flyer Death Touch. It costs 3 colorless and 1 swamp. But Bone Picker costs 3 less to cast if a creature died this turn.
Delver of Secrets has been seeing a lot of popularity lately, and in a lot of.
I mean, there's a modern deck name
decks.
after it. Grixis Delver is a deck.
Grixis Delver is.
And granted, Delver comes down turn 1 no matter what,
deck,
right?
Yeah.
You can play it. It might not be this powerful turn 2 or 3, but it's a good deck. But with things like Fatal Push, I mean, Fatal Push is firmly in Modern now. There's Lightning Bolt. There's plenty of black. I mean, Dismember, you can play turn 2. There's so many things that you can play, and creatures die in Modern a lot.
Yeah,
so I mean, this
hard.
is generally going to be a 1-cost 3/2 flyer with Death Touch. And the thing that this has that Delver doesn't is Death Touch. This is a great defender.
Yeah.
I mean, this holds things off. Whereas Delver, if there's a bigger flyer on the battlefield, just dies.
Yeah, it's just there at that point. But you're right. The Death Touch is huge. The fact that it's a 1-drop, I mean, it's so easy. I mean, there's so many different things. You could run just a Lightning Bolt even would kill a small creature. You could get this guy out. I mean, turn 2, you're able to do something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, like some people like Sakura
against.
Tribe Elder, right? Sacks to go get a land. So if your opponent is doing something where they sack, well, I guess you can't do it on your opponent's turn. What am I thinking? I'm high. That's what I'm thinking. But if you could have value sending creatures to the graveyard and get this, right?
Yeah.
In the god what's the black god? Can't remember his name. We
Bontu
scrolled away.
or something.
Bontu. Yeah, and Bontu. This is a great creature, right? Like that could play super well. You turn your god on. Yes, I said it. You play this for 1 mana and you've got some serious power on the field. So a really cool card. I think this sees play in Modern.
I can agree with that for sure.
You concur?
I concur.
Okay, we get to the juicy part of the spoilers here. Since everything's spoiled, we see our Planeswalkers. Sadly, very sadly, no Nicol Bolas.
No, not yet.
We're saving this for the very
end.
end.
The next one.
So Gideon was spoiled, and people started losing it because they thought he was nuts. And I'll have to agree, he's really powerful. Let's go over it. He's a 3-drop, 2 white, and a colorless. His +1 is until your next turn, prevent all damage target permanent would deal. That's pretty good. His 0 is until next turn he becomes a 4/4 human with all the indestructible Gideon stuff we're used to.
Yeah.
And his ultimate.
And his ultimate is 0.
Yeah, not much of. You don't really have to do much. I mean, you can get him out and automatically just give yourself that. That's what's incredible about this guy. It's just ridiculous.
Do you want to
that
read
his
it off for
ultimate
him?
is 0. No, go ahead. No.
Judah, you need to talk more.
You get an emblem with, as long as you control a Gideon Planeswalker,
You can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game.
So
It's any
I
Gideon
can't really
Planeswalker.
figure out if this is super, super good or just okay.
I think that
I see his +1 and his first 0 as really good. But when I first saw this, I was like, oh, that's broken. It's a turn 3 Platinum Angel, right? But it's not too hard to get rid of Planeswalkers, and especially 3, it just doesn't seem... Maybe if you just build a deck with all the Gideons, right? You play the Gideon, you play the 3-drop Gideon, the 4-drop Gideon, and then I think that the Planeswalker deck Gideon's a 5-drop. So you just, from turn 3, they just can't kill you, right? Because they're sitting there and they just have to kill your Gideons.
the fact that he's a 3-drop in the first place is what
He's super good.
makes him
He's super good.
Yeah, but still.
the best Gideon.
And it's interesting with the Planeswalkers is the legend rule applies. The first thing they're going to do is once you drop a Gideon, they're not, especially this one, because it's not like he's going to ramp up to some big ult. His ult is 0.
Right.
They're not going to kill the Gideon first thing.
Well, if they don't, he's a 4/4 I mean, he's a body that's going to just swing.
Yeah, okay, they'll have to deal with him, but that's not going to be like, kill the Gideon, because you got the emblem, and you're just going to play another one. If they kill you first, all they have to do is kill the Gideon, and then,
I just realized there's a card that I left off the modern list that really interacts well with this Gideon.
What card?
Glorious End. So...
Wait, is that the red one?
Yeah. I was going to totally put that on the modern deck. I had thought about this combo before, but I totally forgot to put it on the modern deck. So the emblem says you can't lose the game. Glorious End, I don't have it on the list here, but I'll just say it. It's a 3-drop, 1 red, 2 colorless, I believe.
Yep.
That is worded, you or end the turn. It's an instant. And then the subtext is that you can, at the end of your next end, or the beginning of your next end step, you lose the game.
Right. But you can't lose the game if you have
a Gideon out there.
So you can just hold them off while you beat down with Gideon. Be like, your turn, upkeep, end your turn.
Well, I mean, not just that,
that's
but
pretty hardcore.
That's a super...
Well,
there's a couple of things that would work, like Summary Dismissal, the one that exiles all abilities on the stack.
Yeah.
So, that's a 4-drop that you got to keep your whole next turn just to get rid of. Right. So it's not super great. But, like, play your Gideon, if you're already playing aggro, you're built, and then when you see that, that's pretty... Glorious End with a Gideon emblem is pretty stupid.
That's a good combination.
Other than that, I think he's a really, really good Planeswalker, but I don't see it as broken.
I still see this Planeswalker just going into the new, I guess it's not new, but the ad nauseum decks. Yeah. Being able to drop this on turn 3.
Do they run white now?
A lot of them run like 4 colors, I believe. Okay. So
they're running Lotus Bloom. So
yeah, because there's that 1-drop instant. If life would
Angel's
be reduced.
Grace.
Yeah, the split second.
So stupid.
Yeah, this is super. I mean, I don't know if they find a slot for this or if it's in their mana curve, but it just says basically all those cards that you play that kill you, you're fine.
Yeah. And as long as he's out there, you're fine. So you don't have to worry about all those other.
Yeah, sure. They're running, and they're running packs, right? They're running Pact of Negation and Slaughter Pact, and this says you're fine from both those cards.
Yeah, you can't lose the game.
He's a little bit more of a shaky for ad nauseum because with
Pact of Negation. I'm just saying, whatever they're going to do to remove him, you Pact of Negation it, and his emblem keeps you alive.
Okay, yeah, that is true. But let's see, it runs Pact. Yeah, it does.
It does.
It runs all the
Slaughter
Pact
really,
and
Pact of Negation.
With Angel's Grace, it's 1-drop, and it's split second.
I don't think this replaces Angel's Grace.
Yeah,
definitely.
So if you, I know, but it's just as far as an added thing. I mean, sure, if you have Pact of Negation, but if they kill it, like if they play a bolt on it, like if you play it to do whatever you're going to do so that you don't die, and they bolt it, and then you negate that, and then they double bolt, because that's never happened before in Modern.
Yeah, but I think the thing to keep in mind is ad nauseum, you can pretty much get your entire library.
Yeah.
and let's not forget, he has a +1 and a +0 that are both really relevant.
Yes.
+0 gives him an ability to win the game another way for ad nauseum, and his +1 keeps them alive, right? So if they're playing aggro or they're playing something, it's a good... I mean, he's not going to survive alone on the battlefield, but it's a cool card, and it's an interesting point for an ad nauseum deck. I'd be curious to see if he does see any copies.
Also, I mean, he's just going to be great in Standard. 3-drop
Planeswalker. Especially
and he nullifies such strong threats like Heart of Kieran. I mean,
it's not creature, it's target permanent. So they,
and so they can only have 1 Heart of Kieran. So if you have a Gideon out, it's like, no, that's done. That thing can't hurt
enough
anymore.
of that bullcrap.
Right, exactly.
Super good. I really like it.
So I think he's just going to see a lot of play, especially. He might even replace the 4-drop Gideon.
Oh.
In a lot of standard decks.
I think he might complement it. I mean, I think he was going to see 3 4-drop one of this, or maybe 2 and 2, or I mean, the thing is, if you throw this Gideon in, it's still good because the emblem works with Gideons. And so he dies, you play a 4-drop, it's still there, which is really cool. Next up on the Planeswalker list is a Liliana Death's Majesty. Maybe the coolest art in the game.
Yeah.
But she's
looking good.
She's looking good. A little expensive for Liliana. I mean, we've seen expensive Lilianas, but we're used to seeing her a little lower,
Really,
but
really
she's a
cheap.
We like the
3-drop
3-drop ones.
and 2 swamp. Her +1 is create a 2/2 black zombie creature token and put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. -3 is return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature is a black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. And -7 is destroy all non-zombie creatures. I really like this just as far as flavor goes. And I mean, zombies are like a favored tribal. They're one of my favorite tribals. They've never been competitive. I mean, maybe a little bit in Commander. But,
Yeah, zombie commander decks. She
but in
obviously
modern, they're
fits
not.
perfectly
Yeah,
in one of
and,
those.
and you know, Standard is shaping up to have a pretty decent zombie deck. I mean,
Well,
all the zombies.
Embalm.
Yeah, Embalm, and
Everything
they've printed. I mean,
with
there's
Embalm
a
comes
lot
out as
of
zombie.
really good zombies.
Yeah.
It's expensive at 5. Not crazy expensive, but I think all of her abilities are solid. Nothing's like, oh my goodness, like you can't lose the game. I think the most disappointing one, it really is her ultimate. It's great, but most Planeswalker ultimates are along the lines of you're winning the game.
Right.
Unless your opponent does something crazy, you've just started winning the game. And this is sort of that way, but it's a Wrath. This is a Fumigate. And granted, your creatures stay alive, so it's definitely a lot tougher. But it's not. I mean, Obnixilus is less flashy when it starts, but it just starts them on the path of dying slowly, but they're gonna die. Whereas this is somebody could come back from this.
Yeah.
Super good.
It's an expensive damnation, selective damnation.
Yeah, I mean, you start at 5-drop, and then you +1/+1,
It's
and then
not
you can
coming out
kill
till 3
her.
turns later.
Or yeah.
I honestly think her ultimate's not really what you should be chasing with her. Obviously, her
I
best
agree.
thing is the fact that she fuels your graveyard.
Yep, the +1 and -3, you create zombies and you return creatures from your graveyard
And that's, I mean, target creature card from your graveyard is
to the battlefield. That's pretty strong.
gnarly. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you have
Well, I mean, you
an
mill
Eldrazi in your graveyard,
or you mill in a Gear Hulk.
Yeah.
Noxious
Gear
Gearhulk?
Hulk. Yeah, you
Yeah.
bring him back. He's a zombie, which is crazy badass.
you get to
A
kill one of
zombie
their things.
Gear Hulk.
terrifying.
Yeah, those things are huge.
I thought he was a zombie. He kind of looks like a zombie.
Oh, he was a little nauseous.
I like the flavor. I think it's a good card, and it probably will see some play in Standard. It's not like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I don't think she's earth-shattering, but I actually do really like her. I think she's probably one of my favorite renditions of Ileana.
Yeah,
A big part of that is just because the art is so
Yeah,
cool.
really,
it is really
really
cool.
cool.
But it is really just the epitome of what she does.
I
Yeah,
kinda
it's
think-
definitely
zombies.
Liliana.
I kind of think that this art should have been switched with the art from Eldritch because, I mean, that's kind of like the nonchalant, charismatic.
This is the
You're
grown-up
dead.
Lily.
Yeah, I guess.
This is Lily, like, in control.
This is my favorite. My new favorite Planeswalker, though, is the next one coming
Yeah,
out.
I agree.
Nisa.
This one took me. Let's get into it.
Nisa,
Go
what
ahead,
is it?
you
Steward of Elements?
Yeah.
Is amazing. Okay, so it's 1 blue, 1 green, and then X.
Mind blown.
The fact that there is now an X mana cost Planeswalker is just awesome.
Yeah.
And it works so well with the rest of her abilities too. +2, Scry 2. Awesome.
Yeah, great.
Scry, I mean, anything
+2.
that lets you scry is great in the first place. And the fact that it's a +2 is just
Solid.
really powerful. The fact that she is also an X makes her viable to drop on turn 3 and then just +2 right away.
Yeah.
And that makes her a
Free
3 loyalty counter.
and that's
For three.
right on
For
groove.
3.
That's,
And that's
pretty good value. Plus, you get a Scry 2 out of it. That's
yeah. And so already better than Saheeli by 1,000.
Hang on there. I love Z.
The only thing she's good for is cats. Anyways.
That's not true. She double metalwork clauses this.
0. So her 0 cost is basically look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card or a creature card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of loyalty counters, you can put that straight onto the battlefield. That's another one. You get basically a free land, right? Or you get a free creature.
Yeah.
And so,
or you whiff on a spell and hate your life.
well,
But
the
or
best
instant
part
sorcery.
about it is that you look at it. You don't even have to reveal it.
I
It
didn't
stays on
notice that,
top.
yeah.
So basically, you just sit there, you zero, you look at it. If it's a land, you get a free land on
Well,
the
and let's not
battlefield. It's
forget her
huge ramp.
Scry 2 sets this up.
I was gonna say, and then it just synergizes. It doesn't stop synergizing at this point. Scry
Sure.
2,
Turn
you
3,
get to put
you're out of land.
either your land or your creature on top.
Exactly.
Next turn, you can just zero if you want, and put on to the battlefield whatever you like.
And it's easy to get her way high loyalty, right?
Yeah.
If you play her on turn 5, she's already 3 loyalty. You +2 her, see what's coming up. She's 5 loyalty. That's going to play most cards in most standard decks.
So she's going to have value basically whenever you draw her.
Absolutely.
If it's just a
Huge
single draw, you
value.
got an empty hand, you got 7 untapped mana, you're just like, yes.
Exactly. And
Super,
she
super
Let's
cool
just
card.
make something somebody will never be able
The
to destroy.
toughest part about this Planeswalker is deciding to +2 or 0.
That is probably going to be the
Because they're going to 0 and it's just going to be a spell or something. Like,
right.
Dang it.
You'll always zero after you +2. I think.
Yeah,
If
generally. That's
you
the safe
zero,
play. But as just like a Hail Mary, you're like,
Right.
Hail Mary.
just
sorcery.
throw it out. Oh,
There's a draw 3 cards on
it's
top of your
another
library.
land. Oh.
But
And the fact, okay, so her -6 though, we didn't get to that yet. Untap up to 2 target lands you control. They have 5. They're 5/5s. They're elemental creatures, and they have flying and haste until end of turn. They're still lands.
Just-
that's pretty standard Nisa stuff. But the fact that you can get to 6
so fast.
so fast,
Yeah.
and then you automatically have 2 5/5 flying land creatures. That's huge.
You're playing your green deck anyways, right? So you're already beating it down. If you haven't got them to 10 life, that's fine. You just play your Nissa, you defend her, and you kill them. And with all kinds of value. You're scrying 2 every turn. Worst case, you're scrying 2 every turn to get whatever you need to defend her. And yeah, she's really cool. And she's not super broken because there are ways to deal with her. And it's not like she comes down and makes it so you can't win the game or anything.
right.
But
Definitely the most versatile
and
planeswalker.
yeah, absolutely. I think it was cool. I never thought about an X cost planeswalker, but it's really, I mean, she just has so much value throughout the whole curve, and they did a good job of making it worthwhile to cast her with more mana. Right? You start that 0 lets you, if you cast her at 1 X and then you +2 her, you're gonna use her 0 ability, and you're gonna see a 4 mana creature, and it's gonna be like So casting her with a higher X and her -6 is just super high value. I really like this planeswalker.
That's going to be nuts and limited.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's gonna win limited.
Yeah.
If you get
That is probably one of the planeswalkers that I would always run if I draw. Like
Generally,
a lot
I
of
don't-
times, I draft a planeswalker
yeah. I was gonna say
and
if
I
I
don't run
draft
it.
on pack 3, if I draft this, I'm switching both colors.
I generally don't advocate in limited going for like the best card and building a deck around it, but this is like, I mean,
I think you can see standard play. I mean, we have not seen anything Simic, right? Like Simic has not been in standard for a while. Whereas I see this, she is a good
This could definitely change that.
card. People don't realize how good Scry is, and Scry 2. I mean, that's essentially if you have 2 bad cards on the top of your library, that's you didn't
2
waste 2
turns.
turns.
Yeah, you saved yourself 2 turns at that point. That's pretty great.
and that's not just a spell. That's
I
a
really like what they
recurring
did.
ability.
One thing we haven't mentioned is Nissa's blue now.
That is interesting.
I mean, green blue, but
I'm okay with it.
cool. I have no problem color shifting planeswalkers. It was just like, okay, wait a second, what happened to Korra?
They've been doing that kind of with some stuff, like Ajani color shifted a couple of times. What were some of the other planeswalkers that did that? I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I bet you there's something in the lore that explains it too.
Yeah.
Shark and Vol, he color shifted.
I don't think she's not blue. I've never had, I don't have a problem with it. It was just like, okay. I see the
Garruk.
card
He
frame.
color shifted.
Most people will say Garruk. I'm a Garruk
I'm a
fan
Garruk
myself.
fan.
Yes, Garruk.
So, Garruk, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry if you guys hate us for saying that, but it's definitely Garruk for us.
It's definitely Garruk. You can hate us, but we're right.